Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm going to today conclude my review of Beatles B-sides. I've done 11 out of the unique 12 in the UK, and time for the number one choice. So it's Rain, the B-side of Paperback Writer. Yet another fantastic Lennon song, not quite making the A-side. Again, could have been a double A-side, maybe Paperback Writer was the more commercial of the two. But Rain is just a top drawer song in every respect. Both sides of the single were released on the Hey Jude album, which contained a lot of non-album stuff on it. Very valuable for that reason. And then it popped up on the Past Masters more recently. Not mixed into stereo until just before this album came out, so it was just available in mono on the single, and unusually in the US they didn't put Paperback Writer and Rain on an album, because after Revolver they were in sequence with the UK and released identical albums, and About Time too, so good, that was good. Recorded on the 14th of April 1966, just 8 days after they'd laid down the opening track for the Revolver album, which was Tomorrow Never Knows. And both songs include backwards sounds and stuff, so very interesting. I think amongst the first ever. I'll come to a Lennon quote in a minute about that. Luckily, we are blessed to have several promo clips for this song, no less than 3. And also one for Paperback Writer. So the Paperback Writer one was filmed in the grounds of Chiswick House and its gardens, which, by the way, I visited a couple of years ago, and it's virtually unchanged since the day of the video. So even the tree they sat on for the EP cover is still there, and well worth a visit if you're anywhere near West London. It's open to the public. I don't know if there's an entrance fee, but if there is, it's not much. So that's worth a visit. So they laid down a brilliant promo video for both tracks in Chiswick House and Gardens, wearing their shades. And then they went, I'm not sure where they went, to some soundstage and recorded 2 more videos for Rain, and one in black and white, which went on top of the Pops, I think. And then one in colour for the Ed Sullivan, to be sent to Ed Sullivan, because at that stage they weren't touring, or they weren't planning to tour for the release of the single, although they did go on tour. The last tour of the US was a couple of months after this. So they sent a tape to Ed Sullivan in lieu of actually performing live. Ringo's on record as saying, if push comes to shove, this might be his favourite Beatles song. He's always asked that question, and it's great that he chooses such a relatively obscure track, because it really does, outside of the fan base, maybe not get the recognition. I mean, it's not the kind of song you would hear on easy listening radio, I guess, but for those of you who haven't discovered it, go do so. It's not the easiest of listen if you just want to hear a nice melody and a pop tune and not much else. Maybe Rain is not for you, but it's the beginning of the psychedelic period of the Beatles, and it's pretty groundbreaking in that respect. And they achieved the sound on this song by recording the backing track slightly fast, and I think the vocal as well, at a faster tempo. And then Geoff Emerick, who's the mastermind behind this period of Beatles music, slowed down the tape. And apparently when you did that, recorded something fast, then slowed it down, it gave a completely different texture to the instrumentation and to the voice. And you can really hear that. And I think Lennon was very pleased with the results, and maybe he didn't show his appreciation to Geoff Emerick, but I think he was pretty damn pleased. So in the Playboy interview, he's asked about Rain. That's me again, with the first backwards tape on any record anywhere, before Hendrix, before The Who, before anyone. I got home from the studio and I was stoned out of my mind on marijuana, and as I usually do, I listened to what I'd recorded that day. Somehow I got it on backwards, and I sat there, transfixed with the earphones on, with a big hash joint. I ran in the next day and said, I know what to do with it. I know, listen to this. So I made them all play it backwards. The fade is actually me singing backwards with the guitars going backwards. Laughter. That one was the gift of God, of Jah actually, the god of marijuana, right? So Jah gave me that one. So that's pretty amusing. And then a good piece of writing from Ian MacDonald on this track. He says it's genuinely recognised as the strongest of all the Beatles B-sides, and I concur with this series that I've done. And he concludes, instrumentally, the twin focuses of Rain are Starr's superb soloistic drumming, brackets which he reckons to be his best recorded performance, and McCartney's high register bass line, sometimes so inventive that it threatens to overwhelm the track. With its density of sound and intuitive playing, Rain is a cross between the clipped discipline of pop and the heavy, amplified, improvisatory sound of rock, a genre which, in step with the acid counterculture, was to emerge in 67-68. More significant for the Beatles' own style was an effect used in the fade-out, where the opening lines of the song are spooled backwards, a device like very speeding discovered while playing with the loops, made for Tomorrow Never Knows, suiting the sense of Rain by echoing the lyrics' mystic indifference to the phenomenal world. This backwards effect was for a while like the Leslie rotary speaker applied to almost everything the group recorded. He also, in that essay, says that this song is covering the moods that one goes through if one has taken the drug LSD. From the imagery of the words to the contrast between the rain and the sun. I'm not sure about that. I can't talk from experience, but interesting theory. So yeah, I agree with MacDonald that Paul's bass playing is, particularly around this period, coming to the fore and deliberately being mixed higher to give more verve and force to the sound of the Beatles' instrumental sound. And maybe on the transistor radio that wouldn't have come across, but you get your record home and play it. It made all the difference in the world, I think. The other thing to mention is Paul has a chipped tooth in the promo video, which was as the result of a moped accident from the previous December. It also fueled the ridiculous Paul is dead rumours a few years later, apparently. So that was Rain. I put it at number one. And the other thing I just want to give an honourable mention to, although I'm not going to do a separate video on it, is the EP which came out in '64, Long Tall Sally, because that had 4 tracks not available on a UK album. Long Tall Sally, I Call Your Name, Matchbox and Slow Down. So 3 out of 4 of those are covers. But I Call Your Name is a very underrated Lennon-McCartney number. And again, it's a bit lost on that. Well, it's on Past Masters now. But must have been great to just go out and buy an EP in '64 and just get 4 additional tracks, in addition to the Hard Day's Night album, in addition to Beatles for Sale. Good year for the fans, that 1964, as for all the years of the 60s, from '63 onwards. So that was my list of Beatles B-sides. Here's the final ranking. You probably don't agree with it. In fact, I know a lot of you don't with the comments you've left me, but it is only my personal opinion. Don't take it too seriously. And they're all good songs. And I noticed the top 4 are all Lennon songs, which is interesting. And in 3 of those cases, McCartney got the A-side, but in the case of this boy, I Want to Hold Your Hand is the A-side. So that's interesting. So thank you for watching. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do next, but I finished the Beatles B-sides. So see you next time.